Picture this. November 29th, 1970. A college professor and his two young daughters are hiking through Norway's Isdalen, the ice valley, a place so remote and desolate that locals whisper it's cursed. The fog rolls thick between the rocks. That's when one of the girls stops. She's seen something wedged between two boulders, something that shouldn't be there. A human body, charred beyond recognition. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. This wasn't just a tragic accident. Investigators would soon discover that the woman lying in that frozen valley had gone to extraordinary lengths to erase every trace of her identity. And the more they uncovered, the deeper the rabbit hole became. Who was the Isdal Woman, and what was she running from? When police arrived at the scene, they immediately knew something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The woman's body was found in a rocky alcove, partially burned. Her face was so badly damaged it was impossible to identify her. She was lying on her back in what investigators described as a pugilistic pose. Arms bent, fists clenched, as if she'd been fighting something in her final moments. Around her, the scene was staged with chilling precision. 2 plastic bottles that had contained gasoline sat nearby. Dozens of sleeping pills, pink and yellow, were scattered across the rocks. Her jewelry had been removed and placed carefully beside the body. She wore no rings, no watch, nothing with an inscription. And then there were her clothes, or rather what was left of them. The labels had been meticulously cut out of every single garment. Not torn, cut, with scissors or a blade. Someone had taken the time to remove any identifying marks. But the most haunting detail, her fingerprints had been sanded off. Let that sink in. Someone, whether the victim herself or another person, had deliberately erased her fingerprints. The police were baffled. Was this suicide? Murder disguised as suicide? Or something far more sinister? As investigators dug deeper, they discovered the woman hadn't simply appeared in the ice valley out of nowhere. She'd left a trail. A deliberately confusing, contradictory trail. Hotel records showed she'd been traveling across Norway for weeks under multiple fake names, 9 different aliases to be exact. She'd check into hotels using one name, then switch to another. At one hotel, she was Fenella Lorch from Belgium. At another, Alexia Zarna Merches from Pretoria, South Africa. Security footage and witness statements painted a picture of a woman who was meticulous, paranoid, and always looking over her shoulder. She traveled with multiple suitcases, 7 in total, filled with wigs, disguises, and clothing with the labels removed. She spoke several languages fluently: French, German, English, and possibly others. She paid for everything in cash. She avoided being photographed. When hotel staff tried to engage her in conversation, she deflected, changed the subject, or simply vanished. One hotel clerk remembered her vividly. She seemed educated, he said, sophisticated, but frightened, like she was waiting for something terrible to happen. And then there were the coded notes. In one of her suitcases, police found a page torn from a notebook. On it were handwritten letters and numbers arranged in columns. No one could decipher it. Cryptographers tried. Intelligence agencies analyzed it. To this day, no one knows what it means. Was it a cipher? A list of meeting places? Coordinates? Or was it the key to everything? By early 1971, the case had gone international. Newspapers across Europe picked up the story, and a theory began to emerge, one that seemed ripped straight from a Cold War thriller. What if the Isdal Woman was a spy? Consider the evidence. This was 1970, the height of the Cold War. Norway shared a border with the Soviet Union. Espionage was rampant, and the woman's behavior fit the profile perfectly. Multiple fake identities, cash-only payments, coded messages, disguises, constant movement between cities, an obsessive need to avoid detection. Investigators discovered she'd traveled to cities across Europe: Paris, Geneva, Bergen, Stavanger, She stayed in each place for only a few days before moving on. At one hotel, she requested a room with 2 exits. At another, she checked in late at night and left before dawn. Intelligence experts noted that her travel patterns matched known espionage routes. Some speculated she was a courier, delivering secrets between Eastern and Western contacts. Others believed she was a double agent who'd been compromised. But if she was a spy, who did she work for? The Soviets, the Americans, the British, Israeli Mossad. And if she'd been exposed, why kill her in such a theatrical way? Why not just make her disappear? One former intelligence officer who reviewed the case files said something chilling. If this was an assassination, it was meant to send a message. The burned body, the removed labels, the coded notes left behind, it's a warning. Cross us and this is what happens. But not everyone bought the spy theory. Some investigators believed the truth was far more personal and far more tragic. What if the Isdal woman was running from something else entirely? An abusive relationship? A criminal organization? A past she couldn't escape? One detective assigned to the case became obsessed with a different angle. He noted that the woman had visited a dermatologist in Bergen just days before her death, complaining of severe eczema on her hands. The doctor described her as anxious and evasive. She refused to provide a real name or contact information. Why would someone on the run take the time to see a doctor for a skin condition? Unless she was trying to treat injuries that might have come from defending herself. Then there was the autopsy report. It revealed something disturbing. The woman had ingested a massive dose of sleeping pills before her death, enough to kill her several times over. But here's the problem. The level of carbon monoxide in her lungs indicated she was still alive when the fire started. She was unconscious, but breathing when someone set her on fire. The medical examiner couldn't determine if she'd been conscious enough to do it herself, or if someone else had been there. The scene was too contaminated, the evidence too ambiguous. But there was one detail that haunted investigators for years. A witness, a local farmer, reported seeing a man in a dark coat walking away from the ice valley around the time of the woman's death. He was carrying what looked like a briefcase. The farmer thought nothing of it at the time, but when he heard about the body, he went to the police. They searched for the man, put out a description, interviewed everyone in the area. He was never found. Let's talk about what the Isdal woman left behind, because this is where the mystery gets even stranger. In her hotel room in Bergen, investigators found those 7 suitcases. Inside were 12 pairs of shoes, all different styles, multiple wigs in various colors, over 100 Deutschmarks in cash. A spoon with the inscription A. Valentin, the only item with any writing on it. Prescription sunglasses with Italian lenses, a rubber hot water bottle from Spain, cosmetics from different countries. It was like she'd assembled a traveling disguise kit. But why so thorough? Why so many identities? One of the fake passports she'd used had a photograph that matched hotel security footage. Investigators showed the image across Europe, and that's when things got weird. Multiple people came forward claiming they'd seen her, but their stories didn't match. One man said he'd met her at a cafe in Paris in 1969. A woman swore she'd sold her a train ticket in Geneva. A hotel manager in Amsterdam said she'd stayed there under yet another name. But when investigators tried to verify these sightings, they hit dead ends. Hotel records had been destroyed, witnesses recanted, evidence disappeared. It was as if someone was actively covering her tracks, even after her death. In a desperate attempt to identify the body, Norwegian authorities commissioned a facial reconstruction. They brought in a forensic artist who'd worked on dozens of cold cases. Using the skull and what remained of the facial tissue, she created a clay model of what the Isdal woman might have looked like. The reconstruction was haunting. A woman in her 30s or early 40s. High cheekbones, refined features, dark hair, though that was a guess based on eyewitness accounts. The image was published in newspapers across Europe. Thousands of tips poured in. People claimed she was a missing sister, a former lover, a neighbor who'd vanished years ago, but none of them checked out. DNA testing didn't exist yet in any practical form. Dental records led nowhere. Her dental work was so generic it could have come from anywhere. The Isdal woman remained a ghost. And then, in 2016, something incredible happened. A journalist named Lars Christian Wegener reopened the case. He partnered with scientists and used modern isotope analysis on the woman's teeth. This technique can reveal where someone lived during their childhood based on the water they drank. The results were shocking. The isotopes indicated she'd spent her early years somewhere in the border region between Germany and France, possibly the Nuremberg area. This was a massive breakthrough, but it still didn't answer the ultimate question. Who was she? Here's where the story takes its most chilling turn. In 2017, investigators exhumed the Isdal woman's body for DNA testing. They compared her genetic profile against databases around the world, hoping for a match. They found something, but it wasn't what anyone expected. The DNA revealed she had genetic markers consistent with European Jewish ancestry. And that's when a new theory emerged, one that seemed almost too tragic to believe. What if the Isdal woman wasn't just running from someone? What if she was running from herself? Some researchers now believe she may have been a Holocaust survivor or the child of survivors, someone who'd spent her entire life hiding her identity to escape persecution or trauma. In post-war Europe, many displaced persons lived under assumed names, terrified of being found by former enemies or unable to cope with the horrors they'd witnessed. Could the Isdal woman have been carrying secrets so dark, so unbearable, that she'd constructed an entire network of false identities just to survive? And when it all became too much, did she retreat to that frozen valley to end it on her own terms? Or was she silenced by the very people she'd been hiding from all along? To this day, the Isdal woman has never been identified. Her real name remains unknown. Her past is a void, but the case refuses to die. New theories emerge every few years. Amateur sleuths comb through the evidence online. Podcasts dissect every detail. And somewhere out there, someone might know the truth. Was she a spy caught in a deadly game? A victim of domestic violence who staged her own death? A Holocaust survivor haunted by ghosts she could never escape? Or was she something else entirely, something we haven't even considered? The Ice Valley still stands silent, its secrets buried beneath decades of snow and stone. But the mystery endures. So what do you think happened to the Isdal woman? Was it suicide, murder, or something far more complex? One thing is certain. She went to extraordinary lengths to erase herself from history. And in doing so, she became unforgettable. The woman who tried to disappear became the woman no one can forget. And maybe that's the most haunting mystery of all.